Route 66, In Search of Ghosts and Treasures, read by author Phyllis Grey. This is a story about the world's most famous highway, Route 66. I wrote this story just for you. I wanted you to share the ride across our beautiful country from Chicago going west to Los Angeles. We'll be traveling with the Harris family, and I'm also part of the Harris family. In real life, I'm the grandma. Do you see the Harrises in their red Chevrolet? They're getting ready to depart from Chicago, Illinois, the first state, heading west along Route 66. This video will cover the 310 miles of Illinois. Later videos will cover Missouri, that you see there in red, Kansas, and a few others. Those other states are Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and finally California. Our adventure begins in downtown Chicago, and Gentry Harris will tell the story. I'm Gentry Harris. I wish to share my family's remarkable Route 66 road trip, the most fun I've had in all my 13 years. Our family loved breakfast at Lou Mitchell's restaurant in downtown Chicago. This breakfast was extra special. Mom and Dad drove us into the city from our home in the suburbs to meet Grandma. She was there early, flagging us to her favorite table. Grandma Harris told us this was our bon voyage breakfast as we three Harris kids and our parents set off for California on a Route 66 road trip. Grandma shared that we were the fourth generation of our family to make this journey. Grandma waited until Lottie and I finished our milk dud pancakes, and 5-year-old Rose finished her mouse-shaped pancakes. Grandma placed a worn old shoebox on the freshly cleared table. It had a big shield drawn on top with bold lettering, Route 66. The words, My Vacation 1957, were neatly printed on the side. Grandma proudly called it her treasure box. She spoke softly. In 1957, I had breakfast here with my parents before we left for our vacation to California, traveling along Route 66. My parents, your great-grandparents, also chose to leave from here on Jackson Boulevard, close to where historic Route 66 begins. I was just 10 years old, like you, Lottie. My 1957 trip turned out to be my favorite adventure ever. I am tickled that you five are heading out on your own adventure this morning. I want to send my precious treasure box along with you. It is filled with photos and postcards from the places I visited along the way and want it to remember my 1957 treasures. Grandma, that's nice of you, but we will see what you saw. I add it because I was 13 grown up and very wise. Yes, Gentry, you will see many of the treasured sights I saw. Understand, though, that many of the places I visited no longer exist. You can't see them. They have closed or vanished like ghosts. Now, Lou Mitchell's was never a ghost. It remained open since Route 66 was the interstate highway, which makes it a golden treasure. Even better, it opened in 1926. Grandma went on to explain that Lou's is an icon. It has a strong association with Route 66. When you think of one, you think of the other. Lottie was still thinking of vanishing ghosts. What happened to those sites that disappeared? Well, those ghosts were largely places that served travelers, such as restaurants, service stations, motels, and trading posts. When superhighways were built, customers zoomed down the interstates and avoided Route 66, which ran through many little towns with stop signs and lower speed limits, Grandma continued. Gradually, businesses along Route 66 had fewer customers, and many closed. Sometimes whole towns died because there was no work. Often, owners were unable to sell their property, leaving buildings to rot, rust, and collapse. I call these treasures that we have lost Ghost of 66. Today we find only the ghostly remains, empty buildings, fading signs, relics of these, our entire abandoned towns. Ghosts of 66 are all over the West. Grandma, we just have to see a trading post. Are we too late? Are most of the trading posts going to be ghosts, part of ghost towns? Lottie and I were concerned. Well, thanks to the preservation efforts of people along the old road, there's still plenty to see today, including your trading post. Historic Route 66 now attracts people from all over the world who want to see the American West. Visitors marvel at our mountains, craters, canyons, and caves. They want to experience the mom and pop businesses with home cooking and hospitality. They want to visit the iconic stops and oddities along the way. The old road is like a circus midway with lots of sideshows. It is unpredictable and unforgettable as it bends and turns and goes up and down, rolling with the hills. That's why we will also see lots of vintage cars, sports cars, and motorcycles. People love the ride, Grandma grinned. That's cool, Grandma, spoke a grateful Lottie. I'm glad the fun road is still out there and that you saved your treasure box. Grandma's eyes were twinkling, and I wrote about my trip in a journal which is in the box. Now I'll be able to share it with 5 very special travelers. That's what Lewis and Clark did on their Western expedition, I offered. They recorded their sightings, but I have a great memory and will probably just keep things in my head. Gentry, you'll forget more than you remember over the years to come. Trust me. With that, Grandma handed each of us a bound book of blank pages, pens, and pencils for our journals. Rosa was delighted to have what the brothers had. You big guys help her with the words that she wants to write, and let her draw pictures, instructed Grandma. By the way, a quick sketch will help in your journals as well. Our journey would be a search for ghosts and treasures. Grandma taught us that everything related to Route 66 was a treasure. Places and features that had disappeared were ghost treasures. Active places that had been on Route 66 since the road served as the interstate highway were golden treasures. Places added after Route 66 was retired were new treasures. Put that treasure box in a safe place where we can get to it easily, Mom, I urged, and keep it in order like Grandma has it, sorted into the 8 states. It will help us find ghosts. Oh, and keep Rose out of it. Rose's pout changed to a smile as our server handed Mom, Lottie, and Rose a box of milk duds for the journey. We knew the tradition of the restaurant to give these sweets to women and children. I was fine to be missed, as I was 13. Well, your car is packed and it's time to go. You have 8 states and about 2,297 miles ahead. Grandma hugged and kissed each of us and patted our vintage Chevrolet nostalgically. I'll be anxious to hear about your experience and be sure to bring me some ghost stories. Our car was a gift from Grandmother. It had been her father's car, and it had been on many vacations. Great-grandfather Harris had named this 1957 Chevy Bel Air Dinah. Great-grandma always said he bought this Chevrolet because of a singer named Dinah Shore who did television commercials. She convincingly sang out,
"See the USA in your Chevrolet. America is asking you to call. Drive your Chevrolet through the USA. America's the greatest land of all. On a highway or a road along a levee. Performance is sweeter, nothing can beat her. Life is completer in a Chevy. So make a date today to see the USA. See it in your Chevrolet."
As Dad pulled into the city traffic, my mind flashed back to the months before our trip. We had gathered in the family room on chilly winter evenings to pore over our library of Route 66 books and listen to Bobby Troop's Get Your Kicks on Route 66 and Nelson Riddle's Route 66 theme. Dad spoke of the allure of the western United States since the earliest of times, when explorers, trappers, and traders staked trails. Dirt paths took on names, among them the Pontiac Trail, the Ozark Trail, Santa Fe Trail, and the Butterfield Stagecoach Road and National Old Trails Road. In the 1920s, an Oklahoman named Cyrus Avery helped plan an east-to-west highway system which would tie many of the early roads together. The proposed highway traversed about 2/3 of the country and provided a good commerce route connecting the Great Lakes with the Pacific Ocean. Its name would be Highway 66, and Cyrus would be known as the father of Route 66. It was a rough road. Dad's eyes widened. When it started in 1926, only 800 of its almost 2,300 miles were paved. When the Depression hit, the government provided many highway jobs to the unemployed. The 1930s are remembered for the worst drought in United States history. Terrible dust storms had ruined the farmland. 200,000 Oklahomans traveled west. These Okies called Route 66 the Mother Road. They strapped all they could to their old cars and trucks and headed to the Promised Land. In the 1940s, the military used Highway 66 to transport soldiers and equipment to the bases across the West. After World War II ended in 1945 and continuing through the 1950s, many ex-GIs who had returned home from war decided to move west for business opportunities. Lots of babies were born as the nation prospered and the West boomed. Those babies are known in history as the baby boomer generation. Grandma is a boomer. Dad called the 1950s and 1960s the golden era. Average families had cars. Americans on the move ushered in the creation of the full-service gas stations, motels, diners, and fast food. Dad said that the automobile represented freedom. Mom and pop businesses were the rule of the day. Open a service station, a motel, a restaurant, or almost any business on Route 66, and the thousands of cars passing each day guaranteed success. Of course, marketing was everything, and the people of the road used every method to get those cars to stop. Signage turned into neon works of art. Huge characters appeared. Series of signs entertained and informed. Mother interrupted. And all the while, President Eisenhower was hard at work preparing a superhighway system of straight roads without stops for military defense reasons. It took more than 20 years and many billions of dollars, but little by little, the superhighway was replacing Route 66. Filled with information, pancakes, and blessings from Grandma, we were finally on the open road leaving Chicago. We were fortunate to have visited the Joliet Area Historical Museum and Route 66 Welcome Center many times with Grandma. It was now time to experience the real highway. At Wilmington, we stood next to the 30-foot tall Gemini Giant outside the Launching Pad restaurant. We sighted the Polka Dot Cafe in Braidwood. Grandma's journal said it was an old school bus converted to a cafe. The bus was a vanished ghost, and in its place was a building surrounded by statues of stars from Route 66's golden era. Lottie and I liked Jake and Elwood from the Blues Brothers movie, which was filmed at a prison nearby. Rose loved Betty Boop. Mom adored Elvis, and Dad hugged Marilyn Monroe. Another statue of Elvis stood on the edge of the parking lot. Dad announced that Elvis had left the building and was singing on Route 66. Dad was anxious to stop at Dwight to see the restored 1933 Ambler-Becker Texaco station. Dad's grandfather had worked for Texaco Oil Company driving a gasoline truck and had delivered to Ambler's. The station was now a visitor center. At Odell, we visited another 1930s restored station rescued from ghosting. It was a Standard Oil station. Dad told us that the friendly attendants would fill your gas tank, wash your windows, check the oil, top off the water in the radiator, measure the tire pressure, and clean the headlights. Pontiac was our next stop, named for Chief Pontiac. Mom had this stop on her must-see list. The newspapers in Chicago had covered a group of muralists, the Wall Dogs, who had painted murals around the town depicting early town history. A local museum featured an extensive Pontiac automobile collection. The Route 66 Hall of Fame Museum showcased an interesting vehicle that traveled Route 66 for years, the Volkswagen microbus of Bob Waldmeyer. Disney Pixar found inspiration for the character Fillmore in the movie Cars from Bob's VW microbus. Bob was an artist and cartographer who did very finely detailed sketches and maps of the highway. He was from nearby Springfield, Illinois, and Bob lived along Route 66 for years doing his art. Upstairs from the museum was the Home Again on Route 66 gift shop. Owner and artist Joyce Harbin Cole shared her newly created Route 66 Santa planned for use on holiday items. It was fun to see the sketch Joyce had done of Bob Waldmeier's land yacht, which we had just seen in the museum. Dad had us imagine traveling in this converted school bus and wintering in Arizona, as the artist owner had done. Our next stop was Bloomington. Inside the McLean County Museum of History, we enjoyed the Cruisin' with Lincoln Route 66 Welcome Center. Our parents called us into the museum from the park bench outside. We three were sitting on a bench with a statue of a seated Abraham Lincoln. We loved the center's logo. Dad reminded us that the automobile had not yet been invented when Lincoln was president. We thought it was hilarious to see Abe pictured behind the wheel. At neighboring Normal, we found the Sprague Super Station. Architect Mom and historian Dad really liked this place. Mom explained that this 1931 Tudor Revival building was built by a local contractor for his own use as a filling station and more. Dad added that this was a new idea for the time, as other stations were small general stores with pumps or small offices with gas pumps. William Sprague built a very distinctive building. City service gas. Customers enjoyed a canopy cover over the pumps, a bay for repairs, and a restaurant. The owner and his family enjoyed a home above the station with an apartment for the gas attendant. Dad was pleased that the city of Normal had purchased Sprague's from Dad's historian and preservationist friend, Dr. Terry Ryburn. We saw a big renovation underway. Dad said we could look forward to a welcome center and gift shop very soon. We were pleased to see this rescued ghost. Normal was a great town. Dad told us that Steak and Shake was started here by Gus and Edith Bell. Since 1934 was printed on the building. Grandma's journal said I had a chocolate milkshake and a steak burger. That's exactly what Rose ordered. Further down the road, we stopped at Funk's Grove. Mom bought maple syrup, which the Funk family called syrup with an I. They had been selling it since the 1920s, and Grandma loved that syrup and served it at her home. Dixie Truck Stop was ahead in McLean. We learned that it had opened in 1928 as a sandwich stand in a mechanic's garage. Dad said it was Illinois' first truck stop. You can certainly declare this a golden treasure. We sighted a barn with bold lettering advertising Merrimack Caverns. Dad explained that farmers received a free paint job in exchange for those ads. Checking my Route 66 guidebook, we were well over 100 miles from this tourist stop in Missouri. That was quite a far-reaching message. Dad remarked about the endless fields of tall, robust corn we saw along the highway. He added that Illinois had some of the best soil in the world. Speaking of corn, Mom announced our next stop in Springfield will be the Cozy Dog Drive-In, where the corn dog was invented. We loved the corn dogs and the chili at the Cozy Dog. This busy 1946 Route 66 favorite was now being run by the grandson of Ed Waldmeier. We admired all the cool artwork of Ed's son, Bob Waldmeier, displayed in the dining area. Mom read from Grandma's journal that she loved the Cozy Dog and had watched Bob, who was her age, drawing at one of the restaurant tables while his mom and dad waited on customers. Grandma said that he was a fine artist and very kind. We could hardly wait to tell Grandma how Bob had later lived on Route 66 and completed hundreds of sketches that Mom said will live forever. Rose added that she would also tell Grandma that Bob's nephew, Josh, cooked us some great food. We passed the exits to the Capitol building at Springfield and the Abraham Lincoln Home and Museum, as we had visited there many times. We stopped in Girard at Doc's Soda Fountain and Deck's Drugstore Museum. We enjoyed our root beer floats while our parents shared a banana split. Grandma had a journal entry about the Deck's Drugstore and the two friendly brothers who ran it. They had told her that the store dated back to 1884. This was a golden treasure for sure. At Litchfield, we passed the Skyview Drive-In. Grandma's journal said that Giant was playing there in 1957. We saw a 60th birthday celebration sign on the marquee of this golden treasure. A favorite Litchfield restaurant was the Ariston. We saw a vintage Greyhound bus pull up with a banner, Route 66, Association of Missouri. Mom told us there were clubs all over the United States and all over the world that celebrate Route 66. This looked like a tour group who had crossed the state line for a nice outing. Grandma had a postcard from the Ariston in the treasure box. She wrote that she liked the Greek food. We had found yet another golden treasure. Next stop, St. Louis, Missouri. We'll be there right after we cross the Mississippi River, Dad announced. You kids know that I went to college in St. Louis, the biggest Route 66 city between Chicago and L.A. Dad explained that the old route originally crossed the McKinley Bridge from Illinois into downtown St. Louis, but later was changed to cross the Chain of Rocks Bridge. Because of a curve or bend in the middle, many drivers found it a scary ride. The engineers had designed the bend due to the strong river currents, the need to protect the water intake towers, and also to allow the bridge to line up with the land owned on the Missouri side. Well, we're almost in Missouri. We found it necessary to cross the mighty Mississippi on an interstate highway bridge. Goodbye, Illinois. We'll see you on our way back. This book is available through Amazon.com or at select gift shops and museums across all 8 states of Route 66.